Welcome to episode 156 of the Microsoft Cloud IT Pro podcast, recorded live December 13, 2019. This is a show about Office 365 and Azure from the perspective of IT pros and end users. In this episode, Ben and Scott discuss Mac computers, a bug with macOS Catalina and Microsoft Teams, as well as some recent changes in Teams trial licenses and why you may want them disabled for your Office 365 tenant.
So you want me to stop by and do a signature and set up your Mac for you?
Set it up by meaning you're going to deliver it to Disney World with white gloves?
No. Set it up, like open it up, type on the keyboard a little bit, hem and haw over, do I need a 16-inch laptop? Not do I want a 16-inch laptop? I don't want a 16-inch laptop. I fly too much. I want a 14-inch laptop. Actually, I just bought my wife a new laptop. She loves the Lenovo Yogas, I forget what this one is. The seat,
like the whole flip around.
Yeah,
they, literally do yoga with the hinge.
Yeah, but it's not about being able to flip it around. I'm not into the whole 2-in-1. But I'll tell you, the Yogas, I think it's a C940. I don't know. I'd have to go pick it up and look at it. But it's a 14-inch laptop. It is super thin. They're just awesome little machines. They've got wonderful keyboards. The trackpads are pretty good with precision drivers running and doing the Windows thing. They're really nice. And so it came down to her old one broke, and we went and looked at new laptops. And she's like, I really like the one I have, which doesn't happen too often. It was almost like a Mac-ish experience. But, I think the Yogas are nice. If Apple can't help me out with a 14-inch, I might have to grab one of those just to do it.
You might have to. You know what else you should grab instead of a new laptop?
What's that?
A new desktop with dual Pro XDR monitors.
No.
Because we all have $70,000 to spend on a tripped out Mac Pro.
Yeah, just take out a HELOC or something, right?
Yeah. I mean, the specs were impressive. Like we've said before, there's no way you're going to get me to pay $70,000. Nor would I be alive to even tell you that I spent $70,000 on a computer if my wife saw that go through on a credit card.
Yeah.
Assuming I could even get a credit card limit high enough to buy one of those.
It's one of those things where I just hope someday Apple makes a quote-unquote Pro desktop with expansion for normals.
A prosumer and not a Pro enterprise.
Which is really what the rest of the Pro line is. It is prosumer by and large. So, it would be great. Like a Mac Mini is not going to cut it for me. I would like to be able to add extra drives, do a little bit of RAID, do the JBOD thing. Sometimes you do want your own GPU. You might want to take advantage of something like that $2,000 Afterburner card, but not without spending $30,000 on the case, because you really don't need all the cores and everything else. You just wanted that specialized card. So that stuff does happen. So yeah, it would be nice if they serviced the prosumer space, both for towers and for monitors as well. So by all accounts, that XDR display is super nice, right? Comes in glossy finish and matte, and you get it with the nano texture matte, all those things. But so that's cool. It's a 6K display. Apple already makes a really nice 5K display in the iMacs. You just can't buy it without the computer in it. If they just took that 27-inch display and they just sold it naked without the computer behind it, I bet they would sell gobs and gobs of those things. I don't know why they don't make them.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I thought they were going to actually do. But lo and behold, they did not.
No, it's all good to have reference monitors, but it would be nice to have things that were for, the prosumers or the normals.
So would Apple make the argument then that you should buy the base $6,000 version of the Mac Pro and just upgrade the components yourselves? Because I have seen articles now in the last couple of days popping up about how you can upgrade your Mac Pro significantly cheaper by buying the base option and then purchasing all your own components versus buying it pre-built. And they've started detailing out exactly what components you should buy and all of this to maybe get kind of that prosumer one. Because let's face it, prosumers also probably do not need 1.5 terabytes of RAM.
Nope.
Or 28 cores. So you start with an 8 core, you upgrade your RAM to 128 gigs, you buy it with an 8 terabyte drive, and realistically, you could probably do it for a in that 10K range.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or the other option that I've actually seen a lot of the kind of, not the way you want to see people go, but Hackintosh, because you have now all this support built directly into OS 10 for the latest AMD graphics cards.
Yep.
So now it's pretty easy these days to roll a Hackintosh. So rather than spending $5,000, what if you spent $2,000 and had the whole kit? Basically the exact same thing in an uglier case. Then you got to break the EULA and do all that stuff.
Right, because LTT has been coming out with a bunch of videos on these Hackintoshes lately. I feel like that's all he's been doing, is how to build Hackintoshes that are faster than the Mac Pro. His are more like in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. But then it's competing with more of the top of the line Mac Pro, not the bottom of the line Mac Pro.
Yeah. Usually you're talking about like a 5 to 10x magnitude kind of thing, depending on where you source the parts from and what that looks like for you. But yeah, it's a thing. Everybody gets up in arms because, hey, the most expensive Mac Pro costs $53,000. Well, you know what? That Mac Pro was not the one that was for you. It was quite literally and figuratively made for somebody else, for another constituency. But I just wish they modeled in and do those things. Or it would have been nice, like when they released the 16. I know there's the whole Osborne effect thing where you don't want to pre-announce a product because somebody won't buy your current products. But it would have been super nice if they did a little bit of just a wink or a nod, like wink, wink, that, hey, we fixed the keyboards on this one. So guess what? We're getting ready to do that on the Air and the 13 and all the other things that exist out there. That would have been nice too, because just to know they're coming.
To your point, all those other sizes, and even a 14-inch and 16-inch are going to appeal to two different markets. It's for two different people. The reason I got the 16-inch and you're looking for the 14-inch, you spend significantly way more time traveling than I do. I want just the power with my laptop no matter where I go, and the size doesn't really matter as much to me.
As long as you can always plug it in and have that 20 minutes of battery.
Exactly. That's about what my current one is at anyways. I need a new battery and a new keyboard, and I think a new Logic board. My current one is getting an overhaul as soon as the 16-inch gets here.
Oh my goodness.
As IT professionals in the cloud era, sometimes it feels like we don't speak the same language as the rest of the organization. So when stakeholders from finance or other departments start asking about a specific project or team's Azure costs, they don't always realize how much work is involved in obtaining that information, sifting through cluttered CSVs and a complex mess of metadata in order to manually create custom views and reports. It's a real headache. On top of helping you understand and reduce your organization's overall Azure spend, ShareGate Overcast lets you group resources into meaningful cost hubs and map them to real-world business scenarios. This way, you can track costs in the way that makes most sense with your corporate structure, whether it's by product, business unit, team, or otherwise. It's a flexible, intuitive, and business-friendly way of tracking Azure infrastructure costs, and it's only available in ShareGate Overcast. Find out more on sharegate.com/ITPro. Speaking of Macs, do you know what else has an issue? What other issues I have with Macs right now?
Let's see.
Microsoft.
Could it be a Microsoft program? Is it OneDrive consuming all your memory, or Microsoft Defender, ATP? Is that consuming all your memory?
Well, that doesn't run anymore on mine, I don't think.
Is it a...
I think I broke it.
Oh, I got it. So you installed Microsoft's Web Fluent fonts because you wanted to have Sego UI semi-light on your computer, and it screwed up all your Electron apps like Teams, and now none of them look right.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. It did do that too. I have all kinds of issues. If you would like to find an issue with a Mac, come talk to me. No, in reality, ATP for like the last 2 months just has trouble starting this app. I haven't tried to fix it. I don't know if it's running or not in the background, but I don't have any UI into it. But the biggest one that has raised way more noise than anything else is an issue with screen sharing in Microsoft Teams. And to be fair, I don't know entirely where all the blame lies with this. It is Microsoft, so everybody blames Microsoft. But there's been some Twitter statuses out there and all of this around Catalina, because this issue surfaced with Catalina and Microsoft Teams. And we can link to the thread out there in It's not actually in Tech Community. It's in answers.microsoft.com. We are up to a grand total now of 17 pages of people discussing this issue and trying to get around it. But essentially what happens is in macOS Catalina, they have that new screen recording security permission. So in order for anything to work that in some way captures something off of your screen, this could be Snagit, it could be WebEx, it could be Zoom, it could be Teams, it could be any other screen capture tool, screen recording tool, blah, 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 blah. It requires you to give that app permission to record your screen. So naturally, if you want to do screen sharing in Teams, you go give it permission. It'll prompt for permission. You can say, yes, you have permission to record my screen. Now, the issue comes in is after you've given that permission, and you go into a Teams meeting, everybody has started complaining. Well, everybody, 17 pages of people, 311 people have the same question. But they go to share their screen and they continue to get that prompt that you have to allow screen recording to share your screen. People go through and they're like, I've done it, I've reset it, I've uninstalled, I've reinstalled, I've restarted. I've done all this stuff and I can't get it to go away. There was one person that discovered this, and I've kind of kept going with it, is certain apps, and I have a list that I've found of about 10 of them now, block screen recording or block Teams from determining that setting in some way. So it's kind of like when you go click screen share in Teams, it has to loop through all the open apps on your computer and see which ones you can share, because in Teams you can share your whole screen, or you can just pick certain apps to share. It appears that when it hits certain apps, when it's looping through all of them, it just crashes out of whatever that query is that's running, and it'll keep popping that up. So I found it with Harvest Time Tracking, Microsoft To Do, Cisco VPN, the Photos app on Catalina, so Mac's native Photos app. If any of those are open, screen sharing doesn't work. You get that prompt of go give it permission. As soon as you close those apps, screen sharing works. So you don't have to restart Teams. You don't have to do anything except just click to not start your screen sharing, go close any of those apps that are blocking it, and then click screen sharing again, and automatically everything starts working and you can share your screen.
Yeah, perfect. As long as you don't need to be on your VPN while you're sharing your screen.
Yeah, exactly. Fortunately, that one hasn't been one. Mine tends to be the Harvest Time Tracking because that's what I use to keep track of my time. A lot of people have Microsoft To Do because naturally they're doing all Microsoft stuff and they have To Do open. Some people have said they can also work around this by putting Teams in full screen mode and doing sharing when you're in full screen mode. And then when you drop back down to the Windows mode, they have the issue. And this is where I don't know if there's some issue with Catalina, because some of these Twitter threads that people have referenced, everybody is complaining about how Microsoft implemented the API around that screen recording and how massively painful it is to work with. And then it's all just screwed up.
Well, I think I have the real fix for you. And that is you're running OS X. So you're on a Unix variant in Darwin, and then that's okay. But we're almost into 2020. It could be the year of Linux on the desktop, and Teams is now available on Linux. So you can have your cake and eat it too.
I can switch to Linux.
There you go. Problem solved.
I wonder if I can put it on my new Mac Pro. not my Mac Pro, my MacBook Pro. Let's clarify. I do not have a Mac Pro, my MacBook Pro. Yeah, I did see that Teams is now available on Linux. Now, fingers crossed, I'm going to guess we're going to see everybody else start following. If I had to bet, I would say we start seeing Word and PowerPoint and all those pop up too. Maybe? What do you think?
Well, Teams is Electron. It's a little bit easier to kind of get over to the other side. I think if you ever saw something like Word or Excel or something like that on Linux, it would truly be the year of Linux on the desktop. And then you could go buy one of those honestly, if that happened, I might actually go buy the Dell and Lenovo both make some nice 100% Linux ready, Ubuntu canonical kind of certified laptops. There's an XPS that is just amazing. It's got the 4K screen, all that good kind of stuff. And it runs Linux and has native drivers and all the things you would want. But yeah, I can't do it today.
Interesting. When it comes to email, Outlook and Office 365 are fantastic, but sometimes there are things you'd like to do that aren't implemented. Sperry Software creates Outlook add-ins and Office 365 services that fill in these gaps. For instance, there are Outlook add-ins to automatically print emails and or attachments, save emails to PDF, send out recurring emails, or how about a warning when you're going to do a reply to all instead of a normal reply? Find these and many more email productivity solutions. Get started today by visiting www.sperrysoftware.com/cloudit. So anyway, back to Teams. If you are having issues with your screen sharing on Teams, look at that. Don't go try to reinstall and reboot and reformat and all of that because it won't work. Chances are it's a third-party app.
I love how your first inclination would be, I'm having a problem with Teams. Let's reformat.
Well, so I actually discovered this when I reformatted. It was not just Teams. I had a whole bunch of other issues besides. But that's when I first discovered this because then I booted it up and Teams was one of the first ones I put on, I think just to see if it worked. And because I had no other apps installed, it started working. And then as I continued to set up my computer, it broke. So yeah, that's my Teams experience. And I can link to my blog article where I actually show a video about it. We can link to this forum where everybody's discussing it, but it is a real issue.
Yeah, no,
I'll Electron thing. Electron's just a web wrapper, right?
Well, kind of, sort of. Think more like an application that has a web rendering engine built into it. You know, kind of like the new Credge that Chromium Edge uses. Yep. You know, that rendering engine. Same kind of thing. You've wrapped the whole thing up. It can use those shared libraries and kind of put itself back together where it needs to be.
Easy would it be to like wrap the web versions up in Electron and call it Linux or Office on Linux by using Electron and Office web apps?
Oh, who knows? I'm going to leave that for our developer friends to answer.
Okay. Anywho, did you have something else on Teams, or are you going to move on to our next Teams announcement news?
Oh, no, we can keep going with Teams. I think it's going to be a teamy kind of day.
It should be a teamy kind of day. So, do you want to talk about the next team one?
Sure.
Since I talked, or you can introduce it, and then we can dive into all the details that we've discovered about this and questions we have?
Yeah. So we'll kind of continue the Teams rant. There's a nifty feature inside of Office 365 tenants, and today it applies specifically to Teams, where you can do things like spin up a trial of Teams inside your tenant. So if you're running Office 365 business tenant, or doesn't matter, business, enterprise, whatever it is, and you don't have Teams today, you can just go and sign up for a Microsoft Teams trial. And on the back end, that in the past was giving you things like a Microsoft commercial cloud trial license so that you could go ahead and, get all your stuff in place, and it would stand you up and give you that Teams trial license. And then, if you needed Exchange licenses, things like that, it would all go ahead and light up and do what it needs to do.
Right, because that's what this Teams commercial cloud trial is. It's not just Teams, it's Teams and then all those back-end Office 365 services with it.
Yes, it is all the things that need to come to support Teams along the way. So what's happening is the Microsoft Teams commercial cloud trial offer, wow, that is a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
Is transitioning over to a new license or a new trial offer, which is going to be called the Teams Exploratory Experience.
Ooh.
That's not a mouthful either. So the Teams Exploratory Experience, like if you've never done a trial of Teams in your tenant, then, this will go ahead and light up a whole bunch of stuff. So let's just rattle down the list of what's going to get turned on if someone signs up for a Teams Exploratory Experience. Exchange Online.
I'm going to time you.
Plan 1. Flow for Microsoft Office 365, Insights by MyAnalytics, Microsoft Forms, Plan E1, Microsoft Planner, Microsoft Search, Microsoft Staff Hub, Microsoft Stream for O365 E1 SKU, Microsoft Teams, Mobile Device Management for Office 365, Office Mobile Apps for Office 365, Office Online, Power Apps for Office 365, SharePoint Online Plan 1, Sway, To-Do Plan 1, Whiteboard Plan 1, and Yammer Enterprise. Whew.
You know what you could have said?
All
you
the
could have
things.
said Enterprise E1 because that's essentially what you just listed.
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
Pretty much. It's close.
It's close. It's almost there, but not quite. It's got some extra things going on. So, I think the confusing thing about this one is, you might step back and think, well, we're already using Teams in our tenant. Earlier you and I were discussing before we started recording that, you work with customers who have mixed tenancies of, I think your example was business premium and business licenses.
Right. You could do that, or you could go the same route. You could go, what if I just signed up a bunch of people for Pro Plus to upgrade their desktop office, and then I have half of my people that I've put on E3s.
Yep.
Where it's that mix where you do have licenses that don't include Teams, or maybe you have E3s and you haven't actually lit up Teams for everybody yet. You're doing a staged rollout and you've only lit up Teams for those people that you are trialing it with or doing the proof of concept with, and all the rest of the organization, you don't want to have Teams yet because you're doing a POC of it internally.
Right.
Those are kind of two scenarios you can end up in.
Yep. So effectively, you have one body of users who has what I will call a Teams proper license, and then another body of users who are not licensed for Teams. Well, if you have the capability lit up in your tenant to go sign up for a trial, now you're going to have that pilot or that group of people who's well established with Teams. They have the right licensing they need, all those kinds of things. And then all it takes is one user to go light up a trial. And all of a sudden you're going to have all these other licenses show up in your tenancy, because now that user, by signing up for a trial, has agreed to the Teams exploratory experience trial license for your entire tenant. And now all of a sudden, those Exchange Online P2s, which you had as part of your Exchange Online for your E3 users, now you're going to see P1 licenses, trial licenses, lighting up right next to those as well, which could be a little bit confusing or not your desired state. So there might be some things to do here with thinking about, if you haven't thought about shutting down Teams trial offers yet, and it's not something you're interested in, now is probably a pretty good time to think about going to click the button and turn off that exploratory experience if it's not something you desire.
Right. Because, or if you're in that scenario too, where we said you're piloting it, you probably want to go turn this off right away, because this is my assumption, is if you're piloting it with some users and somebody else in your organization goes and turns on exploratory, let's say you're piloting like the org-wide team, because org-wide teams are a thing where everybody by default gets access to it. All of a sudden, your exploratory users are mucking around and getting into all of the existing Teams stuff that you're currently doing a proof of concept on. Because this isn't going to spin up two separate Teams tenants, because I don't think that would even be possible with UPNs and domains and all that. They're just all of a sudden going to start getting access to whatever they can in your current Teams environment. So you could end up with some weird things going on there.
Yes, it's going to become an interesting state of affairs. If you don't want that to happen, what you need to do is go in as an admin. You need to be somebody who has admin rights within your tenancy. Go into your services and add-ins, and there's a little user-owned apps and services toggle in there that you can go flip and unflip the switch, turn off the ability to let users install trial apps and services. So that doesn't affect anything that you have in place for current billing. It just stops people from signing up today for Teams trials. Now, it's a little bit weird. I don't know how Microsoft is going to handle this, because today the only real kind of trial that falls under that little toggle is Teams. But, in all the articles they talk about it, they specifically mention that in the future we might add additional things in there. And I don't know how that's going to work. Say they do add like a new product, and that's a thing that you're going to want to trial for, but you don't want to trial for Teams. Are they going to have separate toggles? Is it going to be under the same one? What's that going to look like? Who knows?
Is this just Teams? Like, I was under the assumption that other ones were under there too, like the Power Apps trial and Flow trials and all those other trial SKUs that are out there? I didn't see that anywhere.
No.
I'm not sure.
So my understanding of it is just Teams today. All those other things, because those aren't, so some of those other things like Power Automate and all that stuff, it's not actually part of Office 365. That's all part of Dynamics. So I don't think it's controlled by the same switch.
By that same. Oh, that was the other thing. I messed up. I said Flow. You said Flow because
I said Flow because I was reading the list, but
because you're reading the list. We should open another issue on GitHub or go fix that because that should be Power Apps now or Power Automate. Oh, the documentation that was released a week ago or so. Need to update that to Power Automate. Everyone on your team is unique. So is SkillMeUp.com. Only SkillMeUp provides the bridge from fundamentals to certification paths to advanced skills to accelerate digital transformation with one subscription and 5 ways to learn. Start your free pilot today and supercharge your IT and Microsoft Azure skills by visiting skillmeup.com/pilot or click the link in the show notes below. So the other interesting thing too we discovered as we were looking at all of this is if users are currently on trials, and there are a lot of different trials you could actually be on. So there is another article we will link to on managing the Microsoft Teams commercial cloud trial offer, which is what we just said was changing into exploratory. But apparently there were 2 versions of that. So before April 22 of 2019, so 8-9 months ago now, there was Microsoft Teams commercial cloud trial that is now kind of classified as legacy. In April 22 of 2019, there was the latest version of Microsoft Teams commercial cloud trial, which we can coin V2. Now there is the Microsoft Teams exploratory license, which is V3. So within the last 12 months, you have had the ability to sign up for 3 different versions, essentially, of this commercial cloud trial, Microsoft Teams trial, whatever you want to call it. V1 to V2 is a manual upgrade where you need to go use PowerShell to remove legacy team trials and get all your users switched over to those new and improved Microsoft Teams commercial cloud trials. If you're going from V2 of commercial cloud trials to this Teams exploratory, users are going to automatically be converted to this new offer before their trial ends. They don't give a date on when this is going to start, other than this latest Teams exploratory experience will come out in January of 2020, so next month or so. Well, mid-January 2020. I'm assuming they'll start be converting them. What I don't know is because you could sign up for V1 until April 22 of 2019, are V1 and V2 users on that Microsoft Teams commercial cloud trial license going to be converted to the exploratory experience? Are they going to wait until after April of 2020 to start converting them so that in theory you're only having to do V2 of Teams commercial cloud trial? Because there were a lot of changes between those two, because the Teams commercial cloud trial was like Exchange Foundation, and that switched to the Plan 1. Mm-hmm. It was SharePoint Kiosk, and now it's going to be SharePoint Online Plan 1. And there's a lot more services now included in exploratory. So that whole switch between all these different versions of your Microsoft Teams commercial cloud could get a little goofy. So if you are using this and planning on trialing it for the whole year, you may want to keep an eye on some of those licenses, and when you get kicked over, if you get moved over, or maybe you may even have some manual steps there to move to the new one.
You may. The short answer is like, who knows?
It depends.
Right? And even the names of like a SKU and the way it shows up in the toggles, or if you're managing licensing with PowerShell or automated licensing through Azure AD, things like that, that is kind of always subject to change in there. And then I think for things like this, it could be a little confusing. Like, you know, if you didn't know that, hey, people could even sign up for Teams trials, you'll never see these licenses until somebody goes and signs up for it. And then once they've signed up for it, all of a sudden this stuff pops in. So like there is no, like under like product licenses, there is no Teams exploratory toggle switch until that first user in the organization actually launches it and goes through the onboarding experience and comes out the other side. Or there's just some weird things in here. So one of the good ones was it comes with that Exchange Online Plan 1 license, because part of Teams is being able to schedule meetings and put all that stuff together. Well, all it does is light you up for that Exchange Online Plan 1 trial. It doesn't actually assign the P1 license to the user that signed up for the Teams exploratory experience. An admin still needs to go assign them the license, or else they can't do meetings or any other functionality that relies on that Exchange mailbox, which is kind of like, huh? Some way or another, if you're an admin of a tenancy, you're going to want to figure out whether you allow trials, what goes on. And if you do, you're still going to have to monitor this stuff because somebody's going to reach out to you.
All right. So I have another one for you. Well, no, this wouldn't be applicable. Well, maybe it would. You can only sign up for exploratory if your current SKU does not include Teams, right? Not if it's just disabled.
You can only sign up for exploratory. Well, so for the eligibility for it, so you need to have that apps and trials turned on.
It's going to be a SKU. So if I have a SKU that has Teams, but Teams is disabled, I still can't sign up for exploratory.
I think you can.
So like if you have Business Premium, but you disabled my Teams license.
Yeah. So it's users who don't have an Office 365 license that includes Teams can initiate that exploratory experience. In that example, let's go back to, you have that mixed tenant with, let's keep it in the business world. We'll do Business Premium and Business. So if you have those users with Office 365 Business, because their license doesn't include Teams, they would be eligible to sign up for that Teams exploratory experience.
Right. But any of your Business Premium users, if you had disabled Teams on their license when you went and picked the apps, they would not be allowed to sign up for exploratory.
Correct. Yeah, they wouldn't even be able to go through the experience. Now, that opens up a whole nother maybe end user training or adoption or kind of communication issue out there of why can this person sign up for it, but this other person can't? Or why do I see the other people have it, but I don't?
Well, and then I started thinking, because if you have business and you sign up for Teams Exploratory, and then your company decides to use it, so they switch to Business Premium, how does that affect some of these Exchange Online Plan 1s and some of these other SKUs that get lit up that you may have started using that you may not get with business, or is actually a downgrade from exploratory to business? I'm trying to think if business is, I can't remember off the top of my head, and I'm not going to pull it up now because we should wrap up. By the way, my meeting got canceled, so I don't have to go 3 minutes ago. Like how that would work, and I can't remember, I think Business Premium might be all those Plan 1s. So there might not be like some weird downgrade issue there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's more when you get into like those E SKUs, which are all Plan 2s,
E3s are all the Plan 2s.
Yeah. E3s,
not the E1 is a bunch of Plan 1s.
Not the E1s, but friends don't let friends buy E1s. So, there is that.
Yeah. Anyways, that was our Teams experiences for the week, the day. The last 2 days, the last 24 hours we started talking about this. But I think that covers some of our recent Teams experiences.
It does. It should cover most of them.
It should. So now we will let you get back to enjoying your rainy Florida day.
Excellent. Thanks, Ben.
All right. Thanks, Scott. We'll talk to you later. If you enjoyed the podcast, go leave us a 5-star rating in iTunes. It helps to get the word out so more IT pros can learn about Office 365 and Azure. If you have any questions you want us to address on the show or feedback about the show, feel free to reach out via our website, Twitter, or Facebook. Thanks again for listening and have a great day.